I'm your host, Scary Pops, and everybody loves a good scare. So let's get into it. Angela Hammond. She was talking on the payphone with her fiance and saying how there's a suspicious truck that keeps driving around the block. Then that the truck parks near her where the payphone is. He gets out and starts looking around with his flashlight as if he lost something. Then he confronts Angela and abducts her. Her fiance hears all of this on the other line and immediately got in his car to drive where Angela was. When doing so, he drove past the guy in the truck, and Angela was apparently screaming his name for help, so he turned around and tried following the truck. But his transmission went out, and the guy got away. Angela has never been heard from again, and she was pregnant. Annie Borgeson. Annie Borgeson has a really weird case. She was a Swedish student studying in Edinburgh. Then she went to Prestwick Airport, which is literally on the other side of the country. Then she was caught on CCTV at the airport for 10 seconds. Then she left. She tried to take out money multiple times from different ATMs, but didn't have the funds, so she was denied. She was seen wandering around Prestwick. And then she was found dead on the beach. Her long hair had been cut off, and the post-mortem concluded death by drowning. She may have been a victim to foul play or possible suicide. Some say it was self-inflicted violence, mental health issues, but Annie's case is really bizarre and sad. Brandon Swanson. For those not familiar with his story, Brandon was a 19-year-old who lived in Marshall, Minnesota. He was returning home from a party recently celebrating his graduation from a community college up in the town north of Marshall called Canby. And he was on his way home. But along the way home, he crashed in a ditch. For some reason, he was taking gravel roads, even though the highway between the two towns was a straight shot north to south. I'm guessing he took this route as a joyride type of thing since he loved his car and driving in general. Or just maybe he had a little too much to drink at the party and just really didn't want to deal with state troopers on patrol. He called his dad for a ride and was waiting, but he eventually got tired of waiting inside his crashed car and started to walk towards Marshall. He was on the phone with his dad when he claimed to see lights of something nearby. Then he abruptly claimed, "Oh shit," to his dad while still on the phone, and then the call ended. To this day, no one knows what happened to him. No body was found, none of his belongings found, nothing. Did he get shot and buried somewhere? Did he fall in the river? Was he abducted by aliens? Who knows how someone can just disappear into thin air in the middle of nowhere without a body or any remains to be found. William Gaffney. When 4-year-old William Gaffney was left to play with a 3-year-old friend in the hallway of his Brooklyn apartment building, for a few moments, the two boys disappeared. The 3-year-old was eventually found on the roof of the apartment building, and he said the boogeyman, an elderly gentleman with a gray mustache, had spirited Billy away. Serial killer Albert Fish, who fits the boogeyman description, confessed to Billy's murders years later, but Billy's remains have yet to be found.
I'm a night shift police officer in a small southern town. On Halloween night 2021, I experienced fear in a way that I never even thought possible. I patrol the south side of town, which is especially rural with little population. A river flows and acts as a boundary in between towns. Near the river is a rather dark stretch of highway. It only has two destinations: a dual-building senior center and an old abandoned car wild. The stress of running a business and raising an infant was way too much, so she set fire to the car wash. A true pyro, I'd say, but she wasn't so lucky the second time. She was charged with arson and insurance fraud. Well, she apparently killed herself before going before a judge, and it was never known what happened to the baby. Teenagers visit the car wash year-round. It's tradition to talk to Susan through a Ouija board. They often call 911, adamant that they saw Susan. They claim to hear babies crying, children playing, and women screaming, etc. You know, the usual paranormal cliches. I never believed any of it. I'd never witnessed anything paranormal, and without proof, refused to play along. It's safe to say that I'm a believer now. It was around 3 a.m. on Halloween night. All of the trick-or-treaters were sound asleep, and the city was quiet. I received a call for suspicious circumstances. The location? You guessed it. The creepy old car wash that was undoubtedly being visited by obnoxious teenagers. The caller had stated that there was apparently a baby crying in the area. The caller was asked to stay on scene until I arrived, but refused. They didn't want their parents to uncover their curfew-violating shenanigans. I arrived at the pitch-black area. The dim light from the senior center across the street just barely lit the lot. The senior center was nearly as dead as the people inside. I slowly walked the area, half expecting to find a teenager separated from their group. I discovered a portion of the car wash that appeared to be a former supply closet. It was covered in graffiti, as was most of the building. I opened the door and found nothing but bricks and trash. It was a small room with scribbles on the walls. I didn't find any hooligans, scary ghosts, or crying kids, so I decided to leave. But just as I walked away, I heard that sound that stole whatever innocence was left in my 25-year-old body. That's right, it was the faint sound of a baby. At first, it was so vague that I just figured it was an animal of sorts. But as I listened closer, mixed with my booming heartbeat, was unquestionably the cries of a baby. I stepped towards the same room I exited, and sure enough, the sound was inside. I was frightened, but even more baffled. I attempted to turn on my body camera, but of course, the battery had died. I knew whatever was happening was not explainable, so I rummaged for my phone and started a video. Confused and terrified, I walked closer to the door. The sound became louder. It was clear as day. I attempted to open the door, but for some reason it was jammed. The attached video is the short sequence of events. The craziest part of this experience? That's easy. I have no memory of turning around, stepping away, and looking towards my patrol vehicle. Furthermore, I never even ended the video. I never even touched it. It was positioned in my vest pocket below my radio, hands-free. The video doesn't show me prying the steel door open. When I did, there was nothing inside, and the noise had stopped. Adding to the strangeness, the room was significantly colder than before. It was a mid-50s night, but that room felt sub-30. I left in a hurry, and I didn't tell a single soul. I've watched the video twice, and that's it, and it still shocks me. Before this, my wife was the only other viewer of the video. She believes that I may have been a target of a cruel prank. Maybe a group of teenagers set up speakers and just hid them very, very well. I suspect that she only says that to make me feel better, though. Sometimes when I'm sleeping, I wake up to the sound of crying, unsure whether it was a nightmare or reality. All I know is I am never, ever going back to that car wash.